Welcome to Tractionville. This is a podcast for companies running on EOS. I'm your host, Chris White, along with
Benj Miller.
And today we are super excited to have an extraordinary person on our show. Jill Young is an entrepreneur, an author, and a certified EOS implementer. Jill Young, welcome to Tractionville.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be in Tractionville.
So Jill, you have been an EOS implementer for how long now?
It's just over 5 years.
Okay, folks, in 5 years, this woman has dominated. She is an incredible force. She has just risen through the ranks so quickly and doing such amazing work. How did you get introduced to Traction?
Well, I was running a CPA firm, and we were growing rapidly. We were winning awards, and people were, just coming into the company. Clients, employees, people wanted to work there. Clients were just like saying yes because we had crafted this product that people really wanted. But inside, like in my heart and kind of within the company, I was kind of shaking in my boots. I was starting to drop some balls. I had created a structure, quite frankly, not embarrassed by it because it's like all I knew how to do was I was the genius in the middle, and nothing happened until I solved a problem or rescued somebody. But, as we kept growing, I couldn't do that anymore. So I said to a friend, he happened to be an EO, I said, I'm not very good at this. I must not get it. I must just be a lousy manager, a lousy president. I think I'm done.
Wow.
And he looked at me and he said this powerful sentence that I will never forget. Every time I see him, I say, thank you so much. He said, Jill, there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with your system. And it was like a light bulb,
right.
No pun intended, the light bulb of Traction.
Right.
But then he handed me Get a Grip. And he said, this is what you need. And I said, I am not reading another ever-loving book because I read all the books. I have an MBA. I grew up in small business. I should know how to do this. I was just super stubborn, right? So I read the book about 2 weeks later when it was like glaring at me. I read the book, and Chris, I remember thinking, wow, as I read that book, if we would have had this system in our small business growing up,
yeah,
how much less pressure would Dad have had on him? How much less pressure would Mom have on her if they just had these simple tools? So it became very personal. I implemented the system at the firm, loved it. It worked.
Mm-hmm.
I started handing the book to clients. They loved it. And really, I was just kind of handing out tools to them. And one day I got stuck, Chris. And so guess what I did? I called Gino. I said, hey, this little book you wrote, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do next. And he said, oh, girl, you are screwing that up. Come let me train you and, polish you up and get you back out into the world. So once I went to boot camp, fell in love with the community and had a really strong intuition that this is where I belong and this is my calling and my gift, even though I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
I knew I could do it someday. And then here I am, 5 years later, over 500 sessions under my belt, and then here I am.
Jill, so did you go to boot camp as a visionary for your own business?
So just to be clear, I did not own the CPA firm. I was president of the CPA firm. The owner lived in Canada. So I was kind of here doing my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
He believed in me, and, I kind of had all of the reins. But I really went to boot camp thinking I'm going to be a better implementer for this CPA firm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So did you play the
absolutely.
dual role of visionary integrator, or was the owner in Canada the visionary and you were the integrator?
No, this is so hilarious because anyone who knows me well, I am not an integrator.
Right.
Not an integrator at all. But I was the integrator. About 6 months into the process, my leadership team fired me. They said, you're not an integrator. This is at the CPA firm.
Right.
You're not an integrator. And this is while we were self-implementing and I had no training.
Right.
So this is before I went to boot camp. You're not an integrator. You need to be the visionary. Steve is just in the owner's box. And you're the visionary. And Julie became the integrator. And it was beautiful. It works so much better when you just say, this is who I am, and get in your unique ability and go for it.
Yeah, so that transition, it sounds like, you said you're not a very emotional person. You're certainly a passionate person. You're very self-aware though too, because when you've been at the helm of a company for as long as you were, you kind of hold on tight, right? It's your baby. You're the one, who's been holding it and supporting it and nurturing it. But then to have your team come back and say, yeah, Jill, you're not the integrator anymore. That doesn't sound like that was a hard transition for you because you're self-aware.
It wasn't a hard transition, but without the tools, Chris, the accountability chart, really looking at GWC and what an integrator does, that W was really easy for me to say, oh, I don't want to be the integrator.
Right.
I want to be the visionary. And that's what I'm doing right now, is trying to be both. And I had a client experience just last week where we did the same thing, and I'm just now realizing this. We moved the integrator to the visionary box and the director of administration into the integrator box, and it took us about 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful. They've been operating on EOS for 3 years. It was time for a new level of leadership team, and there was no politics or formal performance review or voting of the board and just all that crap you have to do in a bureaucracy. We just GWC'd, and everybody looked at each other and went, yeah, that's a good decision. It's so easy when you are following the tools. Easier and simple.
Right.
So being a visionary and being an implementer are two very different things. And somehow you made that jump. And a lot of the great implementers were entrepreneurs, but you made that jump. Tell us why you were pulled in to do this full time.
It was a pretty quick transition for me, Benj. Don Tinney, former integrator, co-founder of EOS Worldwide, he said to me one day, and I was actually getting ready for boot camp. And I was telling him, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll just be a better implementer and for my clients be able to explain the tools to them. And he said, Jill, are you in a place where you can talk freely? And guys, kind of a side story, but I wasn't, because we had been growing so rapidly at the CPA firm that I had given away my office.
Wow.
So I said, let me find a spot. And he said, can you sit down? I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he said, Jill, I think you were born to do this.
Wow.
Did you know people do this full time? Like, what? And so that was a really big moment for me. Like, the ray of sunshine, angels singing. And when he presented me with that, it was just an intuition that was like, oh, this is what you were born for. And from then on, I made a slower transition. It took me about 6 months to transition out of the CPA firm fully and on my own. Did a little bit of double duty, but, people ask, was it hard? And it wasn't, Benj, because I think it was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You GWC'd yourself.
Right. Yes. And, the money's a little bit scary because you give up a paycheck or you give up what you think is security.
Right.
But I have way more security than I ever had.
So 5 years in, when you were in the early days as a facilitator of EOS, was there a point where you just kind of thought to yourself, hey, wait a minute, I am good at this?
This might sound really crazy, but I never want to be the best. I never want to be the best. And I always want to stay humble because I'm a learner. There's so much more to learn. And my clients teach me, and then I'll teach them, and then they teach me. And I just never want to be the best. So when did I figure out I was good at this? Well, I think maybe I'm still waiting exactly for that day, Chris.
Oh, come on.
I do have I do have these micro moments
Yeah.
of confidence. And I think those micro moments of confidence comes from when a client will say, my whole mindset has just changed. I am having a transformational experience. It comes when the clients say things like, I am now having a level 10 at home and I have a better relationship with my wife.
Wow.
It comes when they say, wow, I've been in this job for 10 years and I don't want it. What I really want is that. So those are just little, it's called impact. You, Chris, you have this happen
Yeah.
all the time, I'm sure, but clients will look at you and say, oh, Jill, you've changed my life. Jill, thank you so much. And I back up from that and I'll say, you know what, I'll take 2% of the credit.
Right.
I'm going to take 2% of the credit. But people, you did the hard work. I gave you some ideas. I taught you the tools.
Right.
You went away for 90 days and made this shit happen.
Right.
Can I say shit on your podcast?
Yeah, you can say
Sorry.
shit.
Jill, you're talking about impact, and you gave some examples of how the entrepreneurs, these senior leadership teams have been impacted. They've reflected that to you. But you've also impacted a lot of employees now because you went and wrote a book that's not necessarily geared toward that senior leadership team, and Earn It. And I picked it up, and when I read it, it was absolutely not what I was expecting. And that's not good or bad. I just didn't know that you were going to speak to, so to speak, my employees. And you did it in such a beautiful way. Where did that message come from in you?
Well, as I was implementing EOS kind of for the first 2 years, what I would notice is that my teams were processing issues really around the accountability chart. So, they rolled out the accountability chart. They're asking everybody to be more accountable. This is what I need you to do. Now I'm asking you to take on some rocks and live your scorecard numbers. And we were processing issues around, okay, my people have said, you're asking me to do more. You need to pay me more. And in my mind, I'm like, no, that's what we needed those employees to do all along. What's happening? Where's the disconnect? We were just clarifying that's what you should have been doing all along.
Right.
This is what this job is worth. And so I just wrestled with it. And in my past lives, I call them my past lives, I was a career counselor. So I worked with employees. I also did a lot of job search training. I worked in HR, so I worked with some employees. So all of these kind of past lives were kind of culminating, and I'm like, there's not a tool out there that says, if you want to earn more money, this is how you do it. Now, there's a lot of people running around going, you just need to work harder. You need those good old-fashioned common sense values.
Right.
But you know what? What I was finding is people didn't know what that meant. So the idea culminated for me when I was on a field trip with Dylan. We were in Austin, just walking down a street. I can remember it as clear as day. I'm like, yes, I need to paint a picture of what employees can do to earn more money. They have to produce more value before they can earn more money. Now, Chris, Benj, you guys are visionaries. I know you. And so, you get an idea and you just go with it. Now, look, right, Benj, you're like, what? You wrote this book. It's to employees. And yet, that's not the target market that I serve. I don't serve that. That's not who I coach. I don't coach employees.
Right.
But I looked at it as, and maybe I talked myself into it, but I looked at it as a gift to my leadership team. So the way I give this to entrepreneurs and business owners, I say, look, buy 5 of these books, keep them in your desk. When somebody comes to you and says, hey, boss, can I have a raise? You just put a huge smile on your face and you say, oh my gosh, this is the most exciting day because you want to do more for this company. Here's this book, and they hand them my book, Earn It. Please read this book, and you come back and talk to me in 2 weeks, and we are going to figure this out because I am ecstatic right now. what happens most of the time, you guys know this, someone comes and asks you for a raise and you go, oh, shit, where am I going to find that in the budget?
Right.
Oh, no, if I don't give them a raise, they're going to quit. And you like feel held hostage. So it's a relief. You don't have to say yes right now. But then what I hear from the readers of Earn It or the bosses who are handing out Earn It is they're like, this is a filtering tool. You have people coming in whining and complaining that they want more money. They read this book and they're like, oh, I have to produce more value. They don't come back and talk to you.
Yeah.
But then you also are able to see who your rock stars are. And it gives them this beautiful map on how to observe what the company needs and looking at the numbers of the company and really understanding how business works, that profits don't just go into the owner's pocket. So that's why I wrote Earn It. And it's just kind of taking on a fun little life of its own. Really popular with grandparents who are buying it for their grandkids. Back in my day, we earned our
That's
money.
right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
That is a
Graduation
brilliant.
gift.
Jill, I just got to say that I hadn't heard that part of it before, and I'm want to pause there for a moment because that's so powerful. Because when that employee does come in and hits their boss up, for that raise, right? It puts the boss in an awkward position.
Oh, yeah.
It can be
And they
uncomfortable.
never do it at the right time.
Yeah. So what a brilliant move is to say, oh my God, I'm so glad you're in my office right now asking for this. This is amazing. Boom. Here's
Wait,
Earn
what?
It, and
Yeah.
I want you to read that in 2 weeks and come back to me, and that's it. I mean, you didn't say yes as the boss, right? You didn't say yes.
Nope.
You didn't say no.
That's right.
So you're not uncomfortable. You have this, and then it puts it back in the employee's hands to go think about it, right? And
That's
here it is, right here in this book. Read it, think about it, and come back to me. Jill, that's brilliant.
And I love, as an entrepreneur, as a leader,
you.
I love to give people a raise, to give them more compensation, to elevate their position, put them more responsibility when they earn it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? I love it.
That's right in the book. Some stories from my clients. The owners are saying to the employee, we want to pay you more.
Right.
We are not hoarding this. We want to pay you more. We need you to sell more. We need you to produce faster. We want to grow. That's the whole reason they start EOS a lot of times. We want to grow. We need people who are going to elevate. So if that's you, come on. We have a plan for you.
Today's episode is sponsored by Keystone Search. CEOs, owners, and visionaries, having the right integrator can literally create rocket fuel for your business. Hiring the wrong one is expensive and can even damage the business you've worked so hard to build. The team at Keystone Search is expert at helping visionaries hire their ideal integrator. Keystone has conducted successful integrator searches across the country, and they are proud to say when EOS Worldwide needed a new integrator in 2016, Keystone was the firm of choice. If hiring a rockstar integrator is in your future, go to www.keystonesearch.com to download more information or give them a call. Keystone Search is here to help you. Jill, you are not one to sit around.
No.
I feel like Earn It just got out there, and lo and behold, you have a second book ready to release, and it's called Encourage. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, is this Superwoman out here? Because she's got over 500 session days under her belt in her first 5 years. She's got a book under her belt. She's doing these offsites with integrators. I mean, you're giving keynotes, you're doing workshops and lectures. I don't know how you do it, but it's impressive. And so...
Well, thank you. When you say it that way, it makes me really tired. Oh, man, that's a lot. I need a nap.
So let's transition the conversation to this next book that's coming out, and let's tell the Tractionville listeners what's next. What's this book about?
Well, now when you write two books, there's not really a pattern, right? Like two does not a pattern make. However, here there's a little bit of a pattern, if I can say pattern. It was a question that was on my mind, Chris,
Okay.
and it was probably last summer. I was talking to a prospect, so a business owner who was wanting to grow, and they were thinking about implementing EOS, and they were not in Dallas, so I was helping them find another implementer. And this prospect said to me, he said, Jill, I know why EOS works, but when doesn't it work? I went, oh my, when doesn't it work? And it just made me really think about it. And I said, wow, you just stumped me. I have to think about this for a minute. And we just talked it back and forth. And, I started pulling some things out, like they're not really committed, or do they really want to grow? And so we just talked about it. Well, after the phone call, I'm like, I got to figure this out. Because Chris, you start a client, they're totally all ready to go. And then, like 6 months in, they call you and they go, we can't afford it anymore. Bullshit. It's not that you can't afford it. There's something else going on in there. And so I call them and go, no, bullshit on the money, because you already said you had the budget for it when we started. So what else is going on? Like, you can quit, that's fine, but we got to figure out what's going on.
Right.
So as I really started to look at the companies who had started and stopped, or the companies who were still in the system but just clunking along, I just really did some science with that. I wrote them all down and thinking about what happened in this session and that session, and do they have the right people in the right place, and I tried to figure it out. So when I finally distilled that information, I thought, you know what? I got it. I figured out that I got it. And it all boiled down to fear.
Okay.
Well, and then it's fear. I had a head slapper moment from some coaching I had done with Steve Chandler, where he said all life problems are based on fear. Like, oh, wow. Well, I boiled it down to fear, and I didn't really even need to. He told me that a year ago. Like, oh, great. So once I had boiled that down, I thought, okay, well, now I'm going to take all of these kind of fear bubbles over here that I had identified in these companies that didn't go for it. And then I flipped it. And I said, the companies who are really rocking and rolling, do I see the opposite of this? And so in my mind, I'm like, the opposite of fear is, what is it? And I just came up with courage. Because as you see the fear, you get it, but you do it anyway. So I applied what I had researched in fear, applied it to the companies who are rocking and rolling, and went, oh my gosh, yes, I've hit on something here. After that, I sent it to, lots of implementers, and I said, here's what I think. Are you seeing this too? Got some resounding yeses, some tweaks for sure, and I put it into what I call the courage mindset model for teams to just really see what's ahead of them. But my desire is teams who think they really want to run on EOS are going to read this, and if they read the book and they see what their obstacles might be, hopefully when they see it, they can just say, oh, yes, that's the fear that Jill talked about, and we're a little more confident, a little less fear. Similarly, you've got companies who are halfway through the process, and we see that J curve. A lot of times things get worse before they get better.
Yeah.
And so down there at the bottom of that J curve, if there are teams who are thinking about, oh, crap, this is just too hard, we're not seeing results right away, hopefully it'll help them too just think about it again before they throw in the towel.
Sure.
So
That's really good.
Move people along.
So there's two other things that you do that I'm just impressed by, and you mentioned one of them was FIM, and I want to talk a little bit about that, and then I want to talk about and I just saw your post on social media, and I want to go to the island. Damn it! So
Do it.
tell us,
We're going to have margaritas.
okay. All right. Done. Tell us your
Done.
relationship with FIM. What is it about FIM that our audience should know? And then tell us about the island.
Okay. Wow, you're right, Chris. I am doing a lot of crazy things. So FIM is actually the brainchild of Christy Clayton. Now, if you know Christy Clayton, she's an integrator,
Mm-hmm.
but she's got a little visionary in her too.
Oh, yeah.
She was a client of Ken DeWitt. Ken DeWitt, I say, he's the new Father John, right?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, love Ken DeWitt. So she was a client of Ken DeWitt. She was hired into a company that he started implementing for as an integrator. And she's like, oh my gosh, I never even knew this existed. This position existed, like a lot of integrators do.
Right.
So she loves EOS and really wanted to put together a group of female integrators to bat ideas around, to support each other. Because when she looked around in her town of Birmingham, Alabama, when Ken would get his clients together, she was the only integrator that was female.
Mm.
So she really created this for herself. I've done the same thing. I have a Wise Woman We Treat that I go on with women implementers.
Yeah.
I created it for myself because I wanted to hang out with cool people and I had no girlfriends. So I create it for myself. So Christy created this, and Ken introduced me to her and said, hey, Joe, will you help her get this off the ground? Will you advise her? So I'm their official advisor, but I do hardly anything for them. They know EOS backwards and forwards. I'm supposed to be their purity police, and they teach me shit. Damn girls. Seriously, damn girls. Now there's membership. They've got a workplace group. They're having a summit that Kelly Knight and I are speaking at in October here in Dallas. So if you're a female integrator and you're not signed up for that, you have to be there. It's amazing. But these are the cream of the crop integrators.
Right.
And they just happen to be female.
Right. That's great.
So that's what that's all about.
Okay. Take us to the island. I'm ready for that margarita.
Oh my gosh, the island. With the margarita. The island is actually a part of a series that I do. So again, I created this series because people in the session room were saying things like, it would be nice if we could talk to other integrators.
Mm-hmm.
Visionaries were saying, hey, do you ever get your visionaries together? They were asking for things like this. And I'd say, oh, yes, absolutely. Go to the EOS conference, which you should go to the EOS conference.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And so I just had this crazy idea. I was actually at Strategic Coach, big fan. In the 10 Times program and just love that. It just builds me up. And Dan Sullivan taught a concept called test the idea with check writers. So the people who are actually going to pay you for your idea, test it. Just throw it on the back of a napkin and say, you want to do this? So this is what I did, Chris. Crazy Jill. This is how I get myself into so much trouble. This is why I'm so busy. I sent out a message. So we started with visionaries. I sent it out to 12 visionaries. And I said, hey, do you want to come hang out with me in the session room? You, me, 12 visionaries, $1,000 all day long. I'll buy lunch. We'll break out the liquor at 3 p.m. You want to do that? Literally, that was my email. And 24 hours later, it was full.
Wow.
With hell yes. Hell yes.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay, let's do it. So, you sell something and then you figure out how to do it. So the first mastermind session, I call them the Mastermind Advantage. Big fan of the mastermind principle from Think and Grow Rich. So we had a blast. It was awesome. And I have an agenda, and I teach them some cool shit, and we read a book, and that's good. So they said, we want one of these for our integrators because our integrators are jealous. I'm like, all right, I'll do one for the integrators. So again, I sent out a message. You guys want to come hang out? Now listen, integrators didn't sign up so fast because they wanted more details. I'm like, this is what we're having for lunch. And yes, there will be bourbon and not just beer. No. So the integrators, they loved theirs as well. Now, how did I get the name the Integrator Island? Well, the first one that I had was the Visionary Vault. And what is that called? Is that called an alliteration when you do the same letter?
Yep.
For each? Okay. Oh my gosh, look, I used a big word. I went to a state school.
You're no longer a country girl.
And I still have big words. So I was on a little free day with Dylan, my 13-year-old. He was probably 10 or 11 at the time. And I said, hey, let's create some words that sound right. So I've got an integrator. And then, Chris, I also created one for the sales manager, for the operations manager, for the finance manager. But just so everybody listening to this doesn't think that everything I touch is gold, those flopped. There's just no interest. So I shut them down. I have a few people ask about it, but nobody, their eyes don't light up. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to gather all of the sales managers and they're going to talk to each other. So it's still on my website. You can still say I'm interested, but there wasn't a lot of interest. So now we do Visionary Vault, Integrator Island, and we also have Accountability Activator, which consistently sells out. That's a public event. It's, any leader or manager can come. And that's the one I actually took on the road this summer. So do a little road show.
All right.
That's been fun. But those are my kind of extra fun stuff.
Well, I hope you're ready for some phone calls from other entrepreneurs and implementers calling you saying, how can we bring the vault and the island to my city?
That's right.
I think that, one of the common themes that we've heard is
that would be so much fun.
How important peer groups are to all of the leaders that are living healthy, that are growing. Peer groups come up over and over again on this podcast. Jill, our time has flown, but we like to end the conversation with two questions. So the first one, you of all people, you are the Energizer Bunny. Your life is intense, on the go, very intentional though. What's the most unproductive but life-giving thing that you do?
Oh, unproductive. Oh, that's so hard for me. Okay, here's one that I just did this last weekend. All the kids were doing stuff, and I sat down and I binge watched 4 episodes of Outlander. So it's this super magical kind of romantic series. I had read the book 10 years ago and really loved them. So there you go. I binge watched.
There you go.
Oh, and I ate Oreos at the same time.
There we go.
There's some. That's unproductive. There's no way to redeem that. That's unproductive.
It was 9 o'clock at night. I never eat Oreos at 9 o'clock at night, but I did it.
You have so many wonderful life experiences. You have so many cool entrepreneurial experiences. And I'm going to put you on the spot here, but when you think about all of that, what's one piece of advice that you'd like to pass on to our listeners in Tractionville?
Oh my goodness. Oh, and it probably is a culmination of kind of my story and my journey and really a little bit of the book, Encourage. Just keep going. That's it.
Right.
Just put one foot in front of the other. When you don't feel like getting out of bed, get out of bed. When you're like, oh my gosh, this session is going to be so rough. I don't want to put myself in this position. I don't want to have this conversation. When you start talking to yourself like that, just do it.
Right.
Just keep moving. And things work out when you move, and things break when you don't move. Just keep on moving.
Nice.
Just do it.
Nice.
Take action.
That's so good. You have been an encouragement yourself, and I love the energy you bring to every conversation we ever have. Thank you so much for being on the show with us, Jill. Tractionville, as always, like us, follow us, rate us. Find us at tractionvillepodcast.com. Send us some feedback. And as always, join us back here in 2 weeks.